I'm the Director of Social Services for the Western region of the Actors Fund, and I just wanted to take a quick moment to make sure that if you're not familiar with the Actors Fund, that you take a moment. We have our 2 brochures out here, and to make sure that everybody knows that Looking Ahead is a program of the Actors Fund. Its emphasis is working with kids and family 9 to 18 years of age. Okay, over here. Okay, perfect. And we're about helping kids and families navigate the entertainment industry and help them transition into adulthood in the most positive and healthy way. So if you don't know about us, we hope you find out about us. Our website's there. Our website has a ton of resources. This event will be live streamed tonight, and it will be posted on the Looking Ahead website. So if you have friends that didn't make it tonight, they can always catch it there. This is also our first night of our Leadership Council, so to all of our leadership parents, we'll resume our normal leadership parents group night next month, and look forward to seeing you all there. So we're going to go ahead and kick off our panel. Also, people were concerned, we are going to end at 8 o'clock, so everyone will be in time to pick up their kids at their rooms. Okay, so we're really excited for the panel tonight. All of our panelists and our special guest speaker, Pattie Fitzgerald. Pattie is the co-founder of Happily Ever After. She is an internationally well-renowned child safety educator, child rape court advocate, and an author. She provides tons of seminars for kids and adults on navigating social media, navigating the internet, and the world of safety with the child's lens of protection. So I'm excited, and if you could help me welcome Pattie Fitzgerald.
I'm just happy to sit down. I've been on my feet all day. Hi, you guys. How are you? I'm glad to be here. This is such an important topic, and I'm really excited to be here because my work for the last 15 or so years has been all about protecting kids from what I call tricky people. And nobody knows that stuff better than you guys probably, because you're parents of young performers who probably have social media sites and profiles online, and you worry about tricky people. And I've been teaching child safety regarding tricky people in the real world and tricky people online. So tonight we're going to talk about online. I'm going to talk for about 10, 15 minutes and just give you some of the highlights of a seminar if you came to one of my seminars, but we're going to bring out a really cool panel with a lot of good people with a lot of good information. So the first thing I have to tell you, which you already know, is the internet and social media is here to stay. We're stuck. We got to work with it. It is what it is. So we got to know what we're dealing with, okay? In terms of online safety and our kids' profiles and everything, there's some very generic safety tips that I can give you. The first one, and I'm just assuming everybody's a parent of an actor. Okay, so the first thing is your kids need social media. It's made some pretty big stars pretty fast. I was telling the panel back there how my daughter, I would like to think, helped create Justin Bieber with all the social media. She's 18 now. But I witnessed the creation of that star. And I know that a lot of you guys and your kids, they're hoping for the same thing. And so they have Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, not so much, because once we got into Facebook, they're like, no. But some of them are like, they'll dabble in Facebook just to, be polite. But they have that, and there's a handout I created that has all kinds of apps and websites that the kids are using right now, and that'll change by the time you leave here tonight, because that's how social media works. But there's some that the kids really like, and so I'm going to talk about those tonight, but the handouts explain all of them, the pros, the cons. One of the interesting things for a lot of those social media sites is that the minimum age requirement is usually around 13 or 14. And I know a lot of kids who are 10 and 11 and 12 who were born in 1993. Because if you weren't, you're going to get kicked off. So one of the best things you can tell, and I'm not even going to tell you, like, don't let your kid have it till 13. That's a whole other conversation. I'm not going there tonight, but I will tell you this. If your kid is not the minimum required age, please remind them that they did not invent lying online. Okay? They had to lie about their date of birth to get that media or to get that profile. Well, that's what tricky people do. And it's a great in for the conversation that you can have with your kids. So one of the things I'm asked all the time is, well, Pattie, what about filters and monitors and blocks and all of that stuff? And they're okay. But your kids will figure out how to disable them in about 10 minutes, so I wouldn't spend too much money on them. It's not a technology fix that's going to keep your kids safe. It's what I call a humanistic or parent approach. And even if you can't build a computer and you don't know how to program and you're not a geek, you can keep your kids safe online simply by paying attention and talking about it. So get to know what those sites are. Musical.ly, are your kids on Musical.ly? Oh my God, if I wish I thought of Musical.ly. I get so mad. I wish I thought of Musical.ly. I wish I thought of Snapchat and Instagram, right? Because I wouldn't be here right now. But those are the ones they're on. Get to know them. Musical.ly is great. You get to sing and dance, and it's great for the shy kids. It's great for the shy kids because you can be the star in your room and put your stuff up there online and hope that it gets 750 likes. And that's what kids want. Now, I have a problem with this, and it's hard because your kids, they kind of need a public profile. And I'm gagging when I say that. I want you to know, because the first thing I tell parents all the time is your kids' settings should always be on private. But I get that there's a very good possibility that your kids aren't. And so we got to work with what we got. You know, your kids are trying to create a career for themselves, so they can't be friends or connected to just the 10 people they know in the real world because, you know, they'll be doing infomercials forever. So they're going to have an open profile. You need to look at it. You need to look at who's posting and commenting, whether it's Musical.ly or Instagram or Snapchat, and you need to have conversations with your kids. For example, with Musical.ly, make sure there's nothing identifying in the background or in their little intros that gives a tricky person out there information about where I can find your kid. So it shouldn't be, hi, I'm Pattie Fitzgerald from Santa Monica, and I go to school at Franklin Elementary, and here's my rendition of Summertime. Okay? And make sure, look at the stuff they post, because kids will forget. So tell them you just want to look at all the wonderful things they're putting up and how talented they are, and you want to see those videos. And do it with a smile all the time. Your face is going to crack from the smiling you're going to do talking about this stuff. But ask your kids to show it to you. And remind them that they're wonderful and brilliant and talented. But a lot of people out there love talented kids. And they'll try and find you, and they're not the ones that you should be connecting with. Okay? So you got to have that conversation. Now, my daughter's 18, and she was huge on social media. So I had to keep up with all of it. And I used to have conversations with her all the time about don't be stupid online. sometimes that's how you got to talk to kids. And if you throw in a New York accent, it goes really well. But you got to talk to your kids on their level. So talk to them about, oh my God, I can't believe I saw this thing on the news. You're never going to believe. Some kid made a mistake putting information out. Pfft, did you ever think of that? I used to do that all the time. I don't even watch the news. But I would say to my daughter, Marissa, I heard this thing on the news. Or I would blame it on Dr. Phil. Marissa, I was watching Dr. Phil today, and they were talking about these tricky people online who found blah, blah, and it was an in to have the conversations because your kids don't want you to sit down at the dinner table and lecture them about their Snapchat because that's boring and you're stupid. As far as they're concerned. I think you're terribly brilliant. So you got to know how to get in the back door and talk to them in a way that they're going to respond. They're going to roll their eyes. Oh, my God, I can't believe you're saying this again. And that's your cue to roll your eyes right back at them because you want to strangle them, but you can't do that. Just roll your eyes and go, I know. Can you believe I am talking about this again? But I am. My daughter thinks I'm insane. But we've had some good conversations because of it. So musically, Snapchat. I love Snapchat because everything's going to vanish like it never existed. Nuts. And kids even, they know this, but they forget. So you're going to have to remind them. The whole idea behind Snapchat was you could put up something stupid and it will be gone in 10 seconds. But there are screenshots. People will screenshot, which is going to lead me to talking to you about sexting in a couple of minutes. Snapchat, make sure your kids know. It's great. You talk to your friends, but nothing is deleted. Nothing goes away forever. There's no such thing as completely private, and there's no such thing as delete. So remind them of that with a smile. Okay? Remind your kids in terms of Instagram. Love Instagram, right? And Instagram has made some people very famous and made some people a lot of money, and that's great. But be careful with the Instagram, because if your kid puts picture up of themselves and they put a little hashtag like, I'll give you a perfect example. I got a call about this. Couple of girls were in middle school and they took a picture of themselves in their bathing suits at Santa Monica Pier. And they put a little hashtag. Hashtag Santa Monica Cuties. And their profiles are open, or public for everybody. And so any tricky person with an Instagram will put in hashtags to see what pictures are going to come up. So hashtag cuties, hashtag Santa Monica, hashtag beach. I've seen kids put up, pictures, hashtag hottie middle schools or something like that. And that's what creepy people are looking for. So you want to make sure that your kids aren't doing the hashtags, because it's really easy for somebody to figure out where your kids are. And once they engage in dialogue, that's the problem. So hashtag Santa Monica Cutie means that somebody can start talking to your kid, start commenting, and having a dialogue back and forth about, oh, Santa Monica, I live in Culver City. Oh, you go to the beach a lot? Oh, what middle school do you go to? Oh, I've heard of that middle school. And kids will think they're talking to a 14-year-old from Culver City, and they're really talking to some 40-year-old slob from, Bakersfield. Nothing wrong with Bakersfield. No, I just realized, oh my God, now everything's going about Bakersfield. Okay. But you know what I'm saying? Forget the hashtags. I hate the hashtags. Okay. You got to have conversations with your kids about sexting. I can't believe the sexting that I see in middle school. Everybody thinks it's going to start in high school. No, high school kids, they really can't be bothered sexting because they're all worried about getting into college, so they're all cleaning up their act. Middle school kids are nuts. If you live through middle school, the rest is cake. Really. Middle school kids are the ones that are pushing the boundaries. Middle school kids are the ones who are making mistakes sexting. That's when they start liking boys or girls. That's when they start thinking, if I put this image out there that everybody's going to like me, they're going to think I'm sexy, they're going to think I'm hot. And performers, kids, will sometimes make a mistake and think if they put out a certain picture or image of themselves and they get a lot of likes, that they're going to get discovered or they're going to get cast in the next big show. The best thing we can tell our kids, sleazy pictures bring sleazy people. That's all. Your agent, your manager, your casting director, they're not going to ask you to put up a sleazy picture that makes your 10-year-old look like she's 25. Or your son, for that matter. A 14-year-old boy looking like, he's 30. Your professionals that represent you, they're not asking for that. But you've got to remind your kids, because your kids think they know everything, especially about the media and the pictures. And they see in the media, people with sexy photos get a lot of attention. So you've got to remind them not to put that stuff out there for several reasons. It encourages cyberbullying. And that's the biggest risk to kids right now, is cyberbullying. Kids being mocked or humiliated, teased online, and all of that. That's the biggest risk. And there was a study done not too long ago by the Crimes Against Children Research Center, and they're a think tank out of New Hampshire, and they found that parents, you worry about tricky people and perverts finding your kid, but that risk is like this compared to your kid being cyberbullied and being harassed. And that breaks my heart, because kids being cyberbullied, they're the ones that, they're often harming themselves or engaging in some types of self-medication and that kind of thing, because it hurts. So you've got to make sure that even if your kid is really good and eats all their vegetables and says please and thank you and can do a cold reading in their sleep, that you remind them about cyberbullying, about not responding to somebody who puts out a snarky comment about them and not putting it out about another kid. Especially another actor who got booked and you didn't. And, everybody's going to get a job. Don't worry. But kids don't know that. So you don't want to be the bullier. You don't want to be the bullied. But you actually have to have a conversation about that. Sexting leads to cyberbullying. Being in the public eye leads to cyberbullying. If your kid goes to school and he or she is an actor and has been on a few shows or is going on a lot of calls, the other kids might think, well, don't you think you're hotsy-totsy? And they start little snarky comments on Instagram and Snapchat and Twitter and all the other things, and Musical.ly and all those things that your kids are putting images out or even talking about. Oh, my God, I just booked a commercial. Oh, my God, I just booked CSI or whatever. So it's okay for them to be proud, but remind them that there will be jealous kids. And if they are on the receiving end of a snarky comment, don't respond back. That's like hitting a tennis ball back to the bully. And all that bully says is, all right, now we got a game. Now we got a match. So talk to your kids about the cyberbullying. Some of it is even illegal. If a kid receives a threat, you think you're so great, well, we're going to beat you up after school, Mr. CSI guest star. If it involves a threat of harm, That's illegal, and you may have to call in law enforcement. So don't delete the bully messages. Print them up. Screenshot them or whatever you have to do, but print them up just in case you need them. Don't respond. I mentioned that. Let's see. The other thing I want to talk about with cyberbullying. Oh, yeah, the sexting. You got to be very frank with your kids. And I use this story all the time, and now you can steal it because your kids will be like, really? Oh, my God. I use it all the time when I go to a middle school. This actually happened. A middle school called me in a few years ago, and there was an 8th grade girl who was in the public eye a little bit. You know, she wasn't famous, but she wanted to be, and she had a little bit of notoriety, and she wanted a boy to like her, and she took a picture of herself in a very compromised position, and she was not wearing anything. And her girlfriends egged her on at a sleepover. I do a whole night on sleepovers, but I digress. But that's what happens. So she, at the sleepover, go ahead, take the picture, send it to him. It's going to be good. He's going to fall in love. You're so hot. Oh, my God. So she did. And then she sent it to her boyfriend. And her boyfriend said, oh, my God, this is great. I've got to send it to everybody because it made him look good. So he did. And so it went through contacts, your contacts, your contacts, your contacts. And all of a sudden, some girl who didn't like that 8th grade girl who was the subject of the picture said, oh, you think you're so great because you're an actress. And you think you're so hot. So I'm going to print this picture up and tape it to the front door of the school. It was horrifying. I can't tell you the mop-up I had to do on that one of just, you know, parents flipping out and the kid who was just humiliated and left school and all of that. So we have to be honest with our kids about what could happen and how, especially if they're in the public eye, that there just may be some people who are looking to mess with you. In terms of tricky people finding your kids, that's why I want you to monitor the comments. Just monitor the comments. It's about parenting and staying involved. Monitor the comments. Talk about this. Great time to talk about anything really with your kids is right before they go to bed. Not as soon as they get in the car after school or whatever, because they don't want to talk then. They're tired, they need to decompress. But right before bed, start talking about whatever it is that you need to talk about, especially if it's something serious like the sexting or the cyberbullying or their profiles or whatever. Start talking about it then. And that's when you can bring up these subjects of, you know, oh my God, I heard this. Can you believe it? And you can even say, you know, your manager, your agent, that casting director, they don't want to be representing the sleaze. So you want to hold yourself to a higher standard, all right? So check out all the handouts. There's even a tip sheet. It's half tip sheet, half contract that you and your kids can sign that says, you know, I won't do this, I will do this, and it'll be a great way to get the conversation started. All righty. So now we're going to bring up the panel because you want to talk to them. And I'm just going to have them come up and they will introduce themselves. Although I have a feeling you already know them.
Testing. Hi, I'm Jordyn Palos. I own Persona PR. We're a PR agency. We're based here in LA, and I have offices in New York City as well.
Cindy Osbrink, the Osbrink Agency. We rep youth in film, television, commercials, and voiceover and modeling.
Hi, Angela Williams. I am the mother of 3 sons who have been in the industry since like forever. And I'm also a writer, author, and motivational speaker and mentor, stuff like that.
And a great mom.
Thanks, Cindy.
Yeah, she is a great mom. My name is Howard Meltzer. I'm a casting director. I cast a lot of series that have kids and young adults on it. Currently, I'm casting Bunked for Disney Channel. Just finished Best Friends Whenever, season 2 for Disney Channel. And earlier this year, I finished working on Lab Rat's Elite Force on Disney XD.
Not bad, not bad. So there are a few questions we're going to start with, and then we're going to take some of the questions, I think, from Chris and Tina. But these are some of the questions we wanted to start with, and I'm just going to go down the line. So the first question is, what are your expectations for your clients regarding social media and their careers, and what you hope that they'll do or not do? So you want to just start?
I feel like it's a little bit different for publicity just because when we bring clients on, they've already been cast on something. So the bulk of our clients are series regulars on television, so they come in and meet with us, and we're looking at their social media. And sometimes these kids are already on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. What we're looking for, it just depends on how established they are. One of the things that we do first is make sure that they have their name attached. We look at social media as a business tool, a marketing tool, which down the line, I know the networks also look at that as well. We work closely with the social media outlets to make sure that they're verified. That's a whole nother conversation that I could have about that whole process. But really, it's just looking to make sure that they have a presence on social media, that they are verified, and if they're younger, 10, 11, their parents are really involved as well. And so also making sure that on their accounts it says that it's run by their parent. And that's something that the social media channels also make sure to see.
That it specifically says run
Run by the
so-and-so's
so-and-so's parent. Correct. Yeah.
That's really good.
That's a really brief
information.
answer, but yeah.
What we expect is, what we typically do at our agency is the minute your child books something big, we'll bring you in and we'll sit down and we'll talk to you and your child about safety, because they've kind of crossed the line at that point. They are now going to be something called famous. And fans, there's a word for it, fanatics. And there's a lot of great fans out there that truly do appreciate your children's work. There's a lot, as Pattie was saying, that just want to be next to your child for the wrong reasons. So we make sure that you have your child's name, .com, .whatever, so you can have the official website. And then we'll sit down and talk about, when you do press, that you don't say, what school you went to, as Pattie was saying, where you live. You live in Los Angeles. People will come up and say, what's your phone number? It's call my agent, 818-760-2488. It's, just that general, as far as phone numbers, as far as your addresses. At that point, that's when you need to go get a PO box. And change, if your child drives, do not put their anything that's personal on there. And just, to educate them and yourselves as the safety thing. We do expect them and you to do use the internet appropriately as far as social media. We've had too many kids lose jobs because the studios wanted them and then they checked their social media. So if nothing else, tell your kids that.
Yes, and mine is from a parent's perspective, and the goal was always to find a solid balance between the actor, the family, and the person, and how they should be promoting their project. And my sons didn't get on social media until they booked a show. Like my baby boy, who is now 14, it wasn't until he booked his Nickelodeon show that he got on social media. And I use his big brothers to kind of police the stuff that he's posting, because Instagram and all the rest of that stuff is like there's so much going on. But the goal is to make sure that they're not spilling their personal life into the social media, that they're not talking too much about the projects on social media, and that they understand that they're strangers on social media. So a lot of their friends or the people who are friending them, I'm just still getting used to the terminology, but the friends and the followers are strangers. So they have to understand that some strangers are good strangers and some of them are not. Some of them are kind of crazy and some of them are not. So they have to post as if the people that they are sharing this information with, that they're sharing it with, that they are strangers, even though they want to, share some things.
Right.
That makes sense?
Makes perfect sense.
Okay.
Smart mom.
It made very good sense. Piggybacking on what everyone else was saying, I'll do a Google search, usually at the point of callbacks, definitely when I'm testing on a project, to see more about the actor and what they have up there, because sometimes I'll find out amazing things like, oh my gosh, look at that amazing voice she has. I didn't know about it. This is just my way of finding out more about the actor. I also look to make sure that there's nothing inappropriate. This happens more when I'm casting teens who are already up in their, like 18 to play younger, or firmly in their teenage years, that put things up on their Facebook page or Instagram or Twitter that don't seem in sync with the characters that we're casting. So I might reach out to a talent agent and say, hey, have you taken a look at this? Maybe they want to take that down.
Thank you, Howard. Just piggybacking quickly on something Angela said, which I think is just a really good point. Your kids should be sort of compartmentalized. There's the actor, there's the kid, there's the student, and they shouldn't bleed into each other. So I thought that was a really, really smart point that you made, Angela. And the other thing is, and I think you kind of alluded to this, you put your kids sort of on a tech diet. They shouldn't be on their social media checking everything. How many likes did I get? 4, 5, 6 hours a day. Tech diet means a certain amount of time, not too much, and it should be limited. So let's do the next question. I thought this one was really interesting. Does a child actor's social media presence affect their castability? So if I have 10 likes and you got 1 million likes, but we both give a good read, is it going to affect?
No, yes, no.
Good answer.
Very often when we're casting a new series or a pilot, like as I said, I'll do a search. If I see someone who has a tremendous amount of YouTube followers, a very active channel, an amazing amount of hits, sure, because they're an influencer and they might be able to get a different audience that might not have sampled the show. That being said, I've never experienced casting someone because they had more followers than the other person. It's always about the best actor for that role.
I like that.
We've had it work both ways, where, and I've been fighting this to the end, but we do have an influencers page now, because not as much the studios, but more for commercials and products. They want to bring the fan base to it. And we've had kids get commercials over, and that, was not completely right for the role because they did have the numbers. I think a lot of it lately, too, you can buy your numbers, I guess. You can buy. Well, people are getting ratted out on that now, too, so don't do it. But yeah, we've had that happen both ways, and then we've had it where it's actually hurt, that they didn't like the fan base that they came with, so it didn't really matter anyway.
So, yeah, kind of yes and no and yes and no, like Howard said. Okay. All right. What's the role of parents in the social media dilemma? When can they say no? And can they say no to their kids having social media profiles and fan sites and all of that? Can they?
Well, I would love to touch on that. No matter what happens in this industry, the parents should always remain the parents. So if there's
Amen.
if there is something that you are not comfortable with the child doing at home, don't give up that responsibility once they get on social media. So if you don't have peace about it and you don't feel comfortable with it, you can always talk with casting. You can always talk with your agents and your managers about, you know, okay, so now why should I do this? And what is it for? And that doesn't feel right to me. You can always say, I don't think it's a good idea, or I don't feel comfortable with it. Right, Cindy?
Absolutely. It's like taking a role that your family values that you're not comfortable with. We pass on an awful lot for the, you know, the shock value is the ages are getting lower and lower, and there's no reason for it. And for your child to go in, they have to do something that he doesn't feel good with. You know on social media whether you feel good or not. They know whether they feel good or not. So you really need to, you are the temperature gauge for your child in everything, including this.
So, yeah, I like that because it means that you still have the power. You're not powerless. And you just heard it straight from the powers that be. So I think that's good. Good to know. Okay, how about this one? Age development stages and managing. So what are the expectations, for example, 9-year-old actor versus a 17-year-old actor, and what's developmentally appropriate? And do you have different expectations for the different stages developmentally where they are, you know, preteen versus teenager or somebody close to being an adult? Any difference?
So we have clients that we've represented since they were 11, 12 years old. They're now 17, 18 years old. The parents were super involved when they were younger, obviously. There's one client I rep now. He's 10. His mom runs everything. He's got millions of followers, so she's obviously very involved. I think it's a personal decision, really, when you start to transition it over to your child. I would say most of my 14 and 15-year-olds are starting to want to run their own accounts, but the parents are still very much involved. I had a meeting today with a client of mine who's 20. Her mom is still very involved in her fan mail, keeping an eye on things. I have a he's in his 40s, and his mom is still involved.
Okay, that's a little scary.
And no, but she's still involved, and he has a team, but it's kind of nice to see. And I'm a new mom, and I'm like, my son, when he's 40 years old, like, I'm going to be right there with him. So I think it's partially a personal decision for your family, but it's just about, you know, the parents keeping an eye on things. Once your child is a little bit older, 14, 15, 16, I think that the post can get a little bit more risque. If you're on a series, making sure that you're posting appropriately. You don't want your network calling you and saying, hey, what is this post? And we keep an eye on that for our clients as well,
So
on the
do keep
PR
an
side.
eye on that,
On the PR side, yeah, that's part of our job. We're watching the posts. We're encouraging the Facebook Live chats. We're encouraging that they're interacting. I know I said this when I first started talking, but it's a business tool. And when we, sit with our clients, and it kind of goes into, dividing things up. Some of our clients even have like a personal account, and that's their personal account for their friends. But their public account, it is a business tool. So don't be posting anything that is going to be inappropriate that you don't want your boss to see, which would be whoever's hiring you.
May I jump on that? It's also building your brand and developing who your followers are going to be. And I can tell, especially when I always follow all the kids who are on my shows, and I can tell if it's in their voice or in someone else's voice. And you as PR know that really, really well. So that's something to be aware of. Like, there's a 9-year-old boy that follows me on Twitter who's very, very, very passionate about Hillary Clinton. And I just don't believe that he's with her.
Oh my God.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
We're just going to sit with that. I like that. That's funny. Oh, man. Okay. Let's see. Dennis, do you want to give me some of the cards? Okay. We've got one more question here. What boundaries can a parent really create with representation around social media and their child and not get fired? And I think you kind of addressed that already, but, is anybody getting fired because they won't have a social media site? Or?
Well, I know that there are some parents who have issues with some of their management or some of their agents. The agents would or managers would suggest to them that they should do certain things, and the parents, they kind of get really upset about it. But I think the parents, again, should stick to the boundaries within their home. And if the agent or the manager or any of their reps have an issue with that, well, then maybe that's not the right agent for them. And if your agent is really focused on not just the success of the child, but the wellness of the child, that rep will listen to you and get a better gauge on what it is that's best for you and the child, and then act accordingly. But if that's not the case, maybe you want to look into looking at another group of representatives, right?
So
I don't care what you do in this business, whether it's media, whether it's auditioning, whether it's, what to wear to an audition. The minute your child has to do something where they lose their character and integrity, you've lost the magic. So why are you doing this?
And the other thing too, if you're worried about losing a job, the job is never more important than the safety of the child or how you're feeling, your peace of mind. There will be another opportunity, and if you hear words like this is an opportunity of a lifetime, and you don't want to mess, you should not have to compromise your sanity for that opportunity. So you don't have to worry about that. With the right people in this industry, you don't have to worry about that.
So this was an additional question that I got at the last minute. In terms of sort of an escape excuse, when I was raising my daughter and all of that, I used to just say, blame everything on me. So I want to ask you guys, can they blame everything on you and just say, your agent will kill you?
People like Howard hate us. Just blame your agent.
Sure, let the agent take the fall for it.
Absolutely. That's what we're there for.
Or here's a really good excuse: if there's something and you don't want to offend a writer, you can just say, we're taking a little break, school's more important right now. No one will ever say, oh, no one's ever going to say that's wrong or stupid. So use that as an excuse.
That's a good one. And be okay with having the conversations with your children's reps about it, because they are that safety net. They are the bad guys. And the parents should feel comfortable. There are a lot of parents who don't want to say certain things to their reps because they don't want, if I say something to the rep, well, maybe if an audition comes, they're not going to, call my kid in because I said something and maybe I shouldn't. But
It's how you say it.
it's all about
It's how you say it. There are some, let's just move from the kid area to adults. Adults will read scripts and just say, I did not respond to the material. That's not what I want to do, but you sometimes don't want to offend a writer. I'm repeating what I said before, so you'll find a much better way of getting out of it. School is a great excuse.
So I think that would work either with your kid or in, somebody else is asking you for something. Just who are you going to blame it on? My agent will kill me. I don't think I'm going to get cast. I just, just find somebody to say, or have your escape line in your head. Your actors, think of what is the line that you need. And I thought that was a great one. Just blame it on school. Right now we're focusing on school.
And then actually focus on school.
That's a wonderful idea.
That would be a really good thing.
That's a great idea. Okay. That's about all the preset questions that I've got. Are we ready with the cards yet that people filled out? Or oh,
Are you guys learning things?
good penmanship. What can parents do about their own information already online that could be linked to their child? I think I should answer that one. Stop posting a million pictures of your kids and stop bragging about them, because your social media, your Facebook is probably, a little more loosey-goosey. So if, you're talking about your life and that you live in, a certain neighborhood and that your kid is auditioning for this thing, or that you just got a job at Wells Fargo or something, the more you put out about yourself, the easier it is to find your kid through you. And with a simple Google search, you would be amazed what I can find out, because I have to do this for a living. It is so easy to find out way more than I want to even know about you people. But so monitor what you're putting out there, especially if your kid's starting to get a little notoriety. Does anybody want to get in on that?
Yes, I'd like to break off a piece of that. Stop talking so much about specifics, because you would be surprised when you're, let's just say you're posting something on Facebook and you're talking about all the things that your kid did for the summer, and that's really great, but stop going into so many specifics about where they were, what they did, what time they got there. I've seen parents post pictures of room numbers of the camp that the kid went to and how long they would be staying there. And I've had people, you know, saying things like, we're at the airport and we're about to fly off to go such and such. Okay, so now everyone knows no one's home.
Yeah.
So you have to be very careful about the specifics, and you got to be mindful that the people that you are talking to, everyone is not your friend, and they're strangers. And if they can gather up enough information about where you live and about family members, I rarely post pictures about extended family members. I rarely post pictures. I don't want to have a connection, because there are people who are not very, what's the word you call them? What do you
Tricky
call them?
people.
They're tricky people. That's a nice way of saying it. And they're not always happy for the success of your child.
Right.
So
And it's a great way to find out where your kid is by finding
cut out the
by
specifics.
finding the specifics. Yeah.
You should all go home tonight and look what you have posted, and then see the clues in the background and where you're at. And, you know, it doesn't take much to find you. It really doesn't.
And even geotagging,
Yes.
right?
Oh,
I went
yes.
through my own personal Instagram and I was like, holy moly, everyone can see where I've been. And so I went through, this is like a year ago or something like that, and I deleted everything because you can see where people have been.
Yeah.
And that was just an option. I didn't even know it was there until I looked.
Yeah. And the same is for you too. I mean, people want to glom onto you. You're, you know, big shot.
I had to get
I
a
don't want
real
anyone knowing.
Facebook in Osbrink, because there was 6 fake Cindy Osbrinks out there posing as me, hoping that you guys would tag, you know. So we finally, it took 2 years for Facebook to take the other 6 down.
Yeah, I had an imposter because whoever the person was wanted to get my son's followers or friends, and I had an imposter. It was hilarious. I'm like, well, why would you want to impersonate me? But the thing is, what I like to do is I like to treat social media like a scavenger hunt. I'm going to make you search and hunt for information. By the time you put all the pieces together, you are still clueless. So I'll like, can I just tell you, I just kind of repost pictures that someone else has already taken of my son somewhere and post it like it's my picture. Yeah. So, because I'm really, I'm that kind of person where I'm a very private person, naturally. So even when the pictures that I post, I'll post flowers. And, you know, people don't really like as many of them because, you know, they're not. One of my sons said something, and I'm going to share it with you. He said, you have to understand that social media is a beast. And if you keep feeding the beast things that it wants, it's going to turn into that. So you have to be very careful and understand, why am I posting this picture? Why am I posting the picture? And a lot of times parents are posting pictures because they want to brag. But sometimes you cross that line from bragging to sharing way too much information, and you end up with not, oh, we're just so happy for you, and you end up with haters. And haters are weird. They start to do things that you would not expect them to do.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. The follow-up on that question was, what else can parents do to prevent their address and phone numbers from being exposed? I think Cindy touched upon it. Do you want to? It's mentioned like a specific cell phone, P.O. box.
Change every bill you have to go to that P.O. box. I mean, just go beyond the call of duty for you, the parents, because they're going to track you before they find your child.
It's no different. I've been casting for a very long time before there were even fax machines. And it's a really long time. But it still happens. I look at paper pictures and resumes, and there'll be kids, and it'll have their home address on it. I'm like, we don't need your home address. So it's the same basic things. What Angela is saying, do not give out too much information.
I personally don't even have, I have my office, everything. Every bill goes there, my driver's license, everything, because people have shown up to my house. So it's just be smart.
Would you say it's a good idea to have a separate phone number just for work, right? Just like we all have a work phone number. Should these kids have, or their parents have, the cell phone that is only for work, and they have a separate cell phone that nobody else uses?
As long as it's a number you're always going to check and not something you're going to check a week after you got the offer for that job. So it has to be something that's current. Don't ever put your kid's phone number on anything. It should always go through the parent. And I've had some parents say, "Oh no, you could email Mike." No, I'm not. I'm not going. I never want to contact anyone under 18. Everything goes through the parents.
Here's a great question. It says, question for everyone. How do you suggest child actors, 5 years old and younger, get started with social media?
Why do you need to have social media if you can't read?
That's brilliant.
And there's something, I am back to pictures again. Your 5-year-old, unless they book a job, they shouldn't be on social media or anything like that. Think about it. Can you imagine how you would feel as an adult if your parents put pictures of you as a child, as a baby, all over the place, and they just handed it out to neighbors and friends, and when you turned a teenager, you're like, "Mom, I was in my diaper, what were you thinking?" So just be mindful of that. Let your kids be kids for as long as they can be kids, and that stuff is There is no way I would post a picture of my kid doing normal 2, 3, 4, 5 years. The thought of it just gives me the creeps.
For the business to nip that, for the little ones, the parents will send us pictures and we'll post it on our Facebook. But it's all work related. It'll be a modeling job or a commercial, or they just booked a role. So that's our job. So send it to us.
They don't need to do that.
No.
But sometimes when they book a job, you know how they would ask you for pictures of them when they were younger? Mm-hmm. Sometimes they do that. That's one thing. They'll want pictures when they're a couple of months old. That has happened, and there's some just surfing around. They're somewhere on the internet, and I just kind of repost those same pictures. But that does happen, but you don't have to do it at 5 years old, no.
That's good. So it takes a lot of the pressure off, I think, for parents who are trying to figure out every single way. And I love what Cindy said. Let her put something up about your 5-year-old who just booked something. So that's great. Can you talk about how to prevent yourself and your child from having their accounts and computers hacked? And should we be taping over the webcam on my child's computer? Yes. I think it's a good idea, the tape on the, not all the time, but yeah, I mean, your kid's going to be using it to make their little musicallys and stuff, but it's not a bad idea to cover it up.
Just to touch on how some of these social media channels are trying to protect talent. We work closely with Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter corporate. So when we have a client that signs with us, which again, that's like after they've booked a project, we usually will set up a meeting with them and they go into their headquarters and they will sit them down, talk about like if they get hacked, what they should do. A lot of the times we can send one email off and get it fixed. I think that they just implemented a new policy where if they get hacked, you get an email right away, so right away, and then they fix everything immediately. Maybe Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Yeah, so I feel like, at least for these social media outlets, they are doing their part in trying to protect young talent. And that's what we see when we go in and talk with them, with our talent. But yeah, I agree, taping the...
Yeah, I think that's not a bad idea. I also think, and it's something that my own husband is always on me about, keep your passwords different, like I'll use the same password for everything. And he's like, "What are you, an idiot?" Just because I'm lazy. So that's
Change them,
something,
right?
Yeah,
Change them often.
change the passwords, change them often. You know, your passwords shouldn't be the same for every single thing because you can very easily be hacked into, or have somebody hack into not only your Facebook but everything else if the passwords are the same. Anybody else want to add on that one?
The other thing that you can do is like for every social media platform, you can create an email address for that particular platform, so that if they have access to your main email, they can just kind of figure out how to link into Instagram or Facebook or whatever. But it will make it more difficult if you have an email for each social media platform. Does that make sense?
Genius. Yes. Very smart. Yeah. I like that. Okay, so this is from Lillian Yee. Who's Lillian Yee? Hello, Lillian. So Lillian wants to know, what age should kids start managing their own social media sites?
The little ones, absolutely not. The middle school, no. High school, I think it's a great time to start weaning them, you off, but always I think you should be involved.
Okay, we have a question for Howard from Cheyenne. Where's Cheyenne? Cheyenne. So this is for you, Howard. Does your social media following base help you book jobs?
We touched on that earlier. It really depends on how tremendous the base is. If you are a YouTube artist and you have millions of followers and hundreds of thousands of views when you post something new, sure, it might get my attention, but it's not going to get you the job. Training and being an outstanding actor is what's going to get you the job.
When I see something that's specifically for one of you guys and their name is on it, I have to read it. Howard, this is for you also. This is from Lynette Jackson. Who's Lynette Jackson? It's a hot corner over here. So Lynette's asking, what social media apps do casting directors look at to see follower numbers? YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. What do you other ones? What are you looking at?
Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram are the ones that have my most attention.
Facebook.
Same for us, too.
Say it again. Facebook.
Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
And that's the same for you.
Yeah, same for us. That's what we look at, 100%. Not so much Snapchat yet.
Yeah, no.
Just because there's no way to monetize it, and when you're doing it on the PR side, you can't.
Okay. PR person. I'm assuming that's you. That's you.
Yes.
How do you get your social media verified if you are younger than the required age? So they want to know
That's
about
a good question. Yeah. So there is a process. Again, we have these direct contacts with Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. They do ask for specific things. They change monthly. They're constantly updating their policies. So I believe for right now, we had somebody verified on Twitter earlier today, and we had to send their first and last name, their IMDb link, and then we also had to send several accounts showing that they have impersonators. So they do look at that. And as far as for underage, I think that sometimes we have to have, we've sent letters from the parents. We've had to send scans of their birth certificate even. But again, the policies are changing monthly. There's always something new that they're having us do and jump through hoops. But you do have to jump through hoops to do it.
And you are the ones that are responsible for making sure it's verified. It's not the parent job. It's the
Yeah, I'm
manager,
actually,
the PR
it's hard because
person's job?
again, we're looking at it from a different perspective when somebody's already booked a job. I don't know if just an average person can get it verified. I know for a fact that there are companies out there that charge lots of money to do it. Don't do it, because if you're not at that level yet, there's no point. It's not going to benefit you at all. Right? I feel.
It's amazing how everything falls in place when you're in the right place. So don't push it.
There's another one. Oh.
She needs an agent.
Old and tired for an agent, but thanks. Whoops, we already asked that one. I've got another one here that I actually put down. How do you handle damage control after personal information has been leaked online and people start calling your home or visiting your home? What do you do in terms of damage control? I think if people are starting to visit your home or you're getting calls, your call should be 911. Seriously, I know that sounds funny, but law enforcement, and those are the people I work with a lot, law enforcement wants you to call them immediately. So if you think, uh-oh, my kid's got a stalker, or it even smells like a stalker, you want to document everything, you want to write everything down, you want copies of everything that even hints at it, and you go to law enforcement, because just about every police department, including federal, FBI, everybody's got a specific department that is dedicated only to cyber crime and cyber safety. And so, 10 years ago, maybe they weren't quite up on it, but they are now. And, it's not just one little policeman sort of in charge of it anymore. There's big departments. Get law enforcement involved. That's the best advice I can give you on that. And obviously, start changing phone numbers. You're probably not going to move, but you're going to want to make sure, just like anything else, that your surroundings are secure, whether you've got alarms or you're just being very, street savvy. Look in your rear view mirror a lot. I mean, a lot of the work that I do is personal safety out in the world with people, and I've had to work with some high profile people who have had some people following them or stalking them. So there's a lot of things like that you would do in terms of your own personal safety. But my first advice is law enforcement.
Parents, call your reps. We deal with this every day. We have a freak file. We know who to call. So if there's any chance that you feel that something's being jeopardized, call, because we do deal with this.
That's good.
And even a lot of the networks, once that you get on a show, they also have. I know Disney Channel at least has a division where they have a file on creepy people who want creepy things.
We like to call them tricky people.
Tricky and creepy people.
Or disgusting perverts, one or the other. Is what we call them. Okay. So, in other words, if your kid is on a show, there are some sort of built-in mechanisms, whether it's through the network or your offices, that are really up on, who's being stalked and who's getting letters or anything like that.
It's not in what I do because I'm the casting director. That's a talent relations issue. But sometimes we'll get an alert to keep our eyes open for people trying to get on our studio lots. So yeah.
Okay.
And most of the time, the networks have a talent relations department that you're dealing with. So report it to us, report it to talent relations. We're all very aware of the creepy people out there and how to avoid them. And even for us, we, have security at our offices too, because you never know if those people are going to show up at our offices. So we definitely want to know if there's creepy people stalking your kid, because we all want to stay safe.
Yeah, absolutely. So now this is kind of a generic question, but I think you guys are really, really smart and have given a lot of good information tonight. How do we keep our kids safe online?
Unplug.
Sometimes, yeah. Seriously.
Delete all your accounts.
Yeah.
Don't. I think utilize what the outlets are also offering to you. Facebook is going to be implementing a new system where Facebook Live, which launched maybe 6 or 8 months ago, it's blowing up, and parents are going to be able to go on there and swipe through this app to get certain questions off, so to protect their children. Like, just be aware of what is being offered to you, like taking off direct messaging on all of their social media channels, and just knowing how to protect them and educating yourself.
And another thing that you can do, just you mentioned earlier, Pattie, about having conversations with your kids. It's so important to have conversations with your kids, even about the things that you don't understand as a parent. You can even just start a conversation like, okay, so what is this for? What is the direct DM thing? What is that? Because you will help, the kids will then get a sense that you want to know what's happening, not because you want to get into their business, but you want to know about what's going on. And the other thing is helping the kids understand what it's for. What it's for. If it's a tool for the industry, then explain that to them, or maybe have some of their reps explain it. But if they think it's just something that they should just, well, I'm taking a picture of some food or my shoes or whatever, let them just understand, give them a better understanding of what the social media tool is for, so that they can learn how to be more responsible for using the tool and how they use the tool.
I think keeping kids safe online is a lot about what are you talking to them about, and it's exhausting. But it's constant conversations about their sites. What are they on? It's constantly reminding them. It's blaming other news stories, but that's what it is. It's staying involved, and something that Angela said. You can always play dumb too. If you want to keep your kids safe online, you're not quite sure what it is. Just, can you tell me what this means or what that means?
Sometimes we really don't know, or am I the only one?
Yeah. Sometimes you don't know.
hip and cool.
Sometimes you do.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to sort of end with this question, and everybody, I want you to just feel comfortable to talk about specifically what is one thing that you want to impart to these parents of young performers in terms of their safety, their online presence. So why don't we just go right down the line? What's the one thing you want to
Can I go
impart?
last?
You want to go last? Okay.
I'd love to go first. Oh.
Sure.
why don't you go
Angela,
first?
go
Okay, I'll
first.
go first.
Absolutely.
One of the things that I hear a lot about with other industry kids in the industry, other industry kids in the industry, no matter if they've been on shows for a long time or not, they start to place their own personal value on likes and follows and comments and all of that. It's so important that the parents remember to validate the children when they're offline, and find those times where they're not on social media, so that you can literally have a conversation with them. You take them out to lunch or whatever, and the phones have to go down or the phones have to go away. But I'm finding that there is peer pressure within the industry kids sometimes, especially the ones that may not book as much as others, where they'll see that kids are getting more likes or tweets or follows or retweets or whatever than the other kids, and it starts to affect their self-esteem. So it's really important for parents to validate the children away from electronics and away from the social media platform, because they start to internalize it, and then we're going to have a generation of kids who are dealing with other mental issues and lashing out with themselves in a way that we've never seen before.
That's right. That's
I'm
right.
so glad you went first. Because you covered everything. You really did. You covered everything from it's for parents, and you're the parent here.
Yeah.
I don't have anything better to add to that. I really don't.
It was very nice. Howard, Cindy, what do you think?
I'm a firm believer in this business that less is more, and that you're the parent and your child has this childhood for such a short time. You so have to value it. It's so precious. And to do things at the right age, not push them into middle school when they're 8, 9, or look like they're in high school. Just less is more. That time will come when the time is right. So just hug each other, talk to each other, communication, communication.
That's nice.
I agree with that. And even what you said earlier, like let things happen when they're supposed to happen. So with the verifications, with the followers, with the likes, it'll come in time, and just let it happen when it's supposed to happen. And just have fun being a kid.
Exactly. That's something I'm always telling kids. Your job isn't to solve problems or anything. Your job is just to be smart and have fun. And my thing with parents is there's a disconnect that we're seeing more and more with kids and their social media presence. I mentioned that sort of false sense of security behind your screen, but that's causing us to be disconnected. Kids are having a harder and harder time having a phone conversation. Even my 18-year-old has a hard time picking up the phone and calling somebody. So keep them engaged. I love what Angela said about honoring their worth and who they are, separate from, well, you know, whether they booked a job or not, or they're acting or not acting or whatever. Honor them for who they are, and understand that emotional disconnect is real, and that we have to be on top of that. We have to pay attention and understand that, so that we can, you know, chip away at that. Okay? But I always like to end with this. We're not powerless. And the internet is not a bad, terrible thing, and it's not horrible, and I'm not against all that social media, and I know that these professionals are not either. So I don't want to end this on like, oh my God, lock the door and throw away the computer. Just be smart. Use it as a tool, and use it for business. Especially if your kids are in the business, okay? Anything else? Thank you all so much. I think they deserve a great round of applause. Great. Thank you all. I hope that you all got a lot of good information tonight. Thanks for